everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm Margie and we do shenanigans here. Today's shenanigan is not a shenanigan, per se, but it is an introduction to various shenanigans that will be going on this channel. Specifically, all the sewing that you will see, because my content is primarily sewing. That's what it's going to be. Just before I start, you will already have seen the title and thumbnail of the video. Little housekeeping note. The videos that you will see after this, they will look very seasonally uncoordinated. So if you're like, why is she wearing winter clothes in fall? It's because I pre-recorded those videos a pretty long time ago, but I only got the means to edit them later. Right now this is phone recorded and phone edited. I'm gonna be super transparent just because I still have not got a working laptop to edit my videos. So this is my little housekeeping note, and with that, let's get started. So I'm very passionate about this topic of, saving money in historical costuming, and just historical costuming and historical sewing isn't a cheap hobby, and I'm going to again be very transparent with you in that I am very fortunate to be able to afford a lot of the fabrics that I can afford, but not everyone might be that privileged, or not everyone might want to spend as much money even if they can. So these are my tips and tricks for historical costuming on a budget that I have learned since I was a beginner. I'm now an intermediate advanced seamstress, I would say, and just a caveat, I do wear most of the clothes that I make. So when I am investing in the fabric and the patterns and the tools and whatnot, I am thinking of 99% of the time, I'm thinking of that garment as a daily wear garment. So my scatterbrained self couldn't improv this, so I have some notes. So number one, I know you hear everyone kind of say the opposite, but I will say, be forewarned. Don't start from your absolute 100% dream project. Especially don't start from the outer gown with no undergarments. Why? Because, well, maybe you'll be lucky and it'll come out like nice, but you're gonna look back on it when you're more skilled and you're gonna be like, I could have done so much better than this, And it's okay to remake it, but if you don't want to waste money and time, I feel like the best way is to start from something of the same era of the dream project. So for example, my dream project still is 1910s, this beautiful court gown that Olga and Tatiana Romanov wore in 1913. Absolute dream dress. I'm on the way to making it soon, but I've started doing some 1910s costuming. I've made myself an array of 1910s undergarments. I've made myself an 1890s evening gown, so I have experience in making evening gowns before I make that. And the other thing is that you usually need more experience and knowledge, and yeah, you may end up wasting money or time. So I know that is what probably will get you into the drive for sewing, because that is what got me into sewing, mostly knowing that I could recreate that dress and so many other dream dresses that I saw. But I feel like you can still keep that as a drive and waiting and being patient, because you know that when you get the skill to do it, you're gonna ace it and do an amazing job. So I feel like look at every garment you make before that as practice. Maybe try to integrate skills that you need. For example, if your dream garment has a lot of honeycomb gathering, try and make a lot of like smocked and honeycomb gathered shirts. So number two, which is more budget related. So this first one was kind of budget related, but we're getting into the meat of the budget related things here. Number two, use recycled materials. I cannot stress this enough. Whenever you can, use recycled materials, because yes, they are much cheaper than new materials and they can be free. Pro tip, let your family members and friends know that you sew and you need recycled materials, and the old bed sheets and curtains and everything you can imagine will start flooding in. I can talk from personal experience. My grandmother has given me a lot of things and is going to keep giving me a lot of things that she no longer needs in her house, like household items. Most of my stuff, like most of my undergarments, are made out of recycled materials, which we're not going there yet because that's my next point. And then recycled materials are so convenient because they leave you tons of room to mess up and you won't feel as bad. For example, I had a lot of recycled silk in my stash, so I started making corsets out of them. When I messed up those corsets, I didn't feel as guilty. Yes, I salvaged the corset. It's fine. I love my corset now, and it fits me great. But I didn't feel that bad when I messed it up because, yes, it was a beautiful silk, but I didn't spend so much money on it, you know? I didn't invest that financial resource, and I just found it in my home. And then they're just better for the environment, and may I add, better quality. Like, I have gotten some nice silks, and I'm gonna get some nice wools and nice cotton sateens. Like, they're better quality and better for the environment. So yeah, just try and use as many recycled materials as you can, which leads me to my next point, which is economize for the undergarments and splurge for the outer garments. So this ties back to the recycled materials. Recycled material undergarments. I know, we are all tempted. I have been there. You want to make the frilliest, silliest undergarments, and you will one day, or maybe now. But if your fabric is not exactly perfect, it doesn't matter. Guess what? No one has to see them except for you. And the undergarments have one function: give you the silhouette, you know? Think a middle, lower class woman in the 1800s. She wouldn't have splurged too much on her undergarments because, well, no one would see them. So if you can't afford meters and meters of lace to trim a corset cover or a combination, just go simple and use cheaper materials and more recycled materials. Maybe a material that you found on a discount. Maybe you can make your corset out of polysatin if you feel like working with something nice and shiny, but you don't feel like splurging. Also, like, undergarments are usually where you start, so you don't need to put all of your resources and your energy into the undergarments. So this is the saving money and energy for the undergarments is going to be amazing when you get to the outer garments, because then you will have more budget to splurge, and maybe you will be able to buy wool instead of, I don't know, cotton twill, or linen instead of polyester. You know, you'll be able to get a better fabric for something that will be seen. And you know, I feel like everyone gets to the point where they make super pretty undergarments just for the sake of making super pretty undergarments. And fortunately, I think I'm almost there, but mostly I make undergarments just because I need them, and the ones I started with were pretty. Yes, they were aesthetically pleasing, but they were pretty, like, banal, like no flossing in my corsets or anything, just a strip of recycled lace that I got, and that was it, you know, because undergarments, no one really needs to see them, and also they're your practice run, as I said before, practice run. Now, number 4, this is more of a ranty McRant rant, so cotton and polyester are your friends. They are okay to use. So I've heard a lot of things said along the lines of, oh, cotton isn't that good, you know, cotton's trashy, AO polyester, and yes, cotton is not the best quality sometimes, and polyester is plastic fiber. But if that is what your budget allows you to get, that's what you're getting, honey, because that's your budgetary restraint, and guess what? You're not gonna feel bad about it. You're not. And because I feel like everybody's own creation is as good as they can make it, and as long as you give it your all, you shouldn't care what fabric you're using. Like, sometimes you can find a really good cotton print. It's really hard to find really good cotton prints. I found a great cotton print, like chintz, blue vines, in a fabric store that wasn't a historical fabric store. It was literally a local fabric shop. So I jumped on that and I made myself a Regency gown. But, you know, I think cotton and polyester are absolutely okay to use. And even if you just want to use cotton and polyester, let's destigmatize these two fabrics. Yes, admittedly, polyester is not the best for the environment, neither is cotton, and polyester is literally plastic fiber, and I don't think that sounds appealing to a lot of people, to most people, I dare say, but if that's what you need to use it. And your dress, corset, whatever you're making is going to be awesome anyways. Also, again, for beginners, because this video is targeted to beginners for me, it's okay to not start with the silks and the linens and the wools and the twills and whatnot, you know? It's okay. It's gonna be your practice run, and you're going to build yourself up until you can buy real silk. Like, I've worked with recycled silks. I was lucky enough to have a lot of silk in my recycled materials because they were old upholstery fabrics that were passed down to more than 30 years. So I had those, but if you don't, just get some polyester, make yourself a gown out of it, call it a day. I'm sure it's gonna turn out awesome anyways. And cotton, if that's the only natural fiber you can afford, it's perfect. It's a practice run. Like me, for example. I'm in a middling position because I can afford not to buy polyester, but getting anything other than cotton or linen is gonna be pricey. So I wanted to make myself a capsule wardrobe full of, you know, really pretty Edwardian walking suits, but walking suits are usually made out of wool. So what am I gonna do? I'm gonna buy a heck ton of cotton twill or cotton jersey and call it a day. I wish those dogs would stop barking. Shut up. So yeah, and the fifth tip that I have, last tip, which is last tip that I have, number 5, is going to be a bit of a shock to everyone, but trust me, stay with me here. Self-draft your patterns and don't start with commercial patterns. What? Self-drafting? But that's so hard. It can be, but honestly, in my own humble experience, I find commercial patterns so much more confusing, and also the sizing, it's so off. The sizing is off. It's always weird. I've not used many, but the ones I've used were, yeah. So my suggestions for patterns are either self-draft with your measurements. That's how I started. You can just get newspaper. It's so much less expensive because I've never bought pattern paper. I've either bought the brown paper for once in my life, just really recently, the brown packing paper, you know, but before that, I've always used newspaper because I didn't pattern my skirts. Most of them were rectangles because I did a lot of Regency stuff. But yeah, like I created myself block patterns. Well, not really block patterns, but I created myself some shapes of different Elizabeth Bennet 2005 gowns, and I kind of worked over them. And before anyone says you need to be talented to do that, no, you don't. Literally, I had no idea what I was doing when I started doing this, and it's also a great pro because when you draft them yourself, you start to get a feel for how your body works, and you start to know, oh, I'm more long-waisted, so I need to, you know, lengthen this or shorten this or cut the neckline up a bit, or okay, I've already made a similar dress, so let me take that pattern and alter it. So, and you get to know your body better, and if you're doing, you know, 18th century or 19th century, you really get to know the silhouette of the period much, much better than you would with a commercialized pattern, you know, because you're like, oh, for example, for the back of the bodices of my Elizabeth Bennet gowns, they almost all have the same back of the bodice. At least, yeah, I have 4 of them, and 3 of them have the same back. And so you kind of get to know that better. So I highly recommend that. Another option, very valid, that's also how I started. I think my very first pattern was self-drafted, but it was self-drafted with the instructions of an antique manual. Again, those are so incredibly useful, and there is so many of them right there. My personal favorite from the 1910s, my my guru, my rock is Thornton's International System for Ladies Garment Cutting. Said it. So that I'm gonna link that down below because that was incredibly hard to find for me, and I just can't wait to share it with the world because I love that book so much. I love it. I've already drafted myself a skirt out of that. Love that pattern. Well, I haven't tried it yet, so I probably shouldn't give you a review of that, but you'll see it on this channel. So one last thing about commercial patterns is that they have so many instructions, and meanwhile with self-drafted pattern, you kind of don't. So it's easier to understand. So yeah, with that, I'm just gonna leave you with 2 generalized tips, which is take your time, and by take your time, you can interpret that as however you would like. Take your time and wait for sales, take your time for the dream project, take your time with this project if you're stressed. And the second one, be kind to yourself. Really, this is really important. You will mess up and you will have some garments that cannot be salvaged, you know? You will have some garments that you will be able to salvage, but they're not gonna look the prettiest. And that's okay, because that's going to be part of your learning journey. Like, I know, because both of my corsets that I've made, both of my my Victorian one and my 1910s one, I've made them out of not corsetry fabrics, or at least not sturdy enough fabrics, and they're kind of shredding apart now, and that's a problem. So my tip is just be kind to yourself, and every single mistake you make, consider it a part of your learning journey, because it is. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you stick around. I don't know when the next video is going to be, hopefully soon when I get myself a laptop to edit. But I hope these tips were useful to you. These were just some things that I've learned personally in my sewing journey, and I really hope that you can make use of them. And I don't know, maybe tell me in the comments what is one of your tips that I maybe have skipped, or if you want to elaborate on one of my tips, feel free to do it in the comments. As always, be kind, and I will see you in my next shenanigan. Bye! Weird position, because I can afford, I'm sorry, these dogs always bark.